As the North Salem High School went into lockdown on a Friday afternoon in the middle of winter, 14-year-old Kylie Jackson and her classmates barricaded the door to their classroom and armed themselves with scissors. She and her classmates threw a bunch of desks and chairs in front of the door and went in a corner, she said after emerging from the school, where she said she was still a bit shaky. Parish Middle School and North Salem High School were locked down for about an hour, following a report at 1:30 p.m. of a man wearing a sports-type mask walking near the campus of the high school while brandishing a gun, according to local authorities. The Salem Police Department said in a statement late Friday that officers searched for but could not find an individual matching that description. Police said they did a thorough search inside the high school, including campus buildings, and that the department was investigating to determine the facts surrounding the initial report of the suspicious individual. Days after a gunman killed 21 people, including 19 children in Texas, people are still apprehensive when it comes to any incident inside of a school. Salem Keizer Public Schools said on social media that relatives shouldn't come to the schools during the lockdowns, but many did, trying to retrieve their students, anxiously waiting outside both schools. Kylie was in her social studies class taking notes about Japan when the lockdown began. Students were initially told the lockdown was at the lowest level, then it escalated. "We thought somebody was in the building because that's what a level 3 lockdown means," Kylie said. She thought about what happened in Texas earlier this week. "It happened so recently that you've got to think, this happens all the time," Kylie said. It was her first extensive lockdown. "We grabbed scissors out of our teacher's drawers and were holding scissors just in case someone came in. I was shaking the whole time. Our teacher was like, try to think of something you can throw in case somebody comes inside." Her mom, Tina, was waiting outside for her. "She started texting me at home right away, telling me they were on lockdown," Jackson said. "So it's so scary." Mercedes Galagos stood outside of Parish Middle School waiting for her 14-year-old brother. Usually he rides a bus home, but Galagos came to the school because she was really worried something bad was going to happen. Galagos' brother has a cell phone, and he messaged her that everything was okay. "It made my stomach turn upside down, just watching all these parents worry," Galagos said. "It just made me worry because anything can happen at this time. Anything." Outside of Parish, several dozen parents and caregivers waited in a line and in clusters outside while school staff collected names and identifications. People were talking to each other and on cell phones, or waiting while holding the leash of their dog or the hand of a smaller child. One woman carried an infant in a car seat. Outside of North Salem High School, family members waited on the lawn and embraced children. Some students stood talking on the lawn. A teacher walked around the grounds with a dog on a leash and a pot filled with tiny yellow flowers. All students and staff were reported safe, according to the district. So this happened 2 years ago. It was an ordinary day. I went to school, people were talking, laughing, and bullies were being bullies. When class started, I sat in my chair as our teacher told us to take out our notebooks for our science project. We did planets, so I chose Mars. We worked for a while when the lockdown alarm went off. The principal told us to remain calm in our class and lock the doors, as this was not a drill. So I sat there very calm, while all the girls screamed and cried. Someone knocked on the door. As we did not answer, the person bashed at the door. It was then long enough when he walked away. The intercom came on again with someone's voice. He said, "Hello, you're all gonna die." I froze in my spot as the girls cried. It was moments after when he came back to our door. The glass smashed and we saw a hand reach through the door screaming, "I'll kill you all." It was seconds after he managed to open the door. My teacher ran at him and tried to tackle him. My teacher's head literally exploded, and everyone whined. He came over and shot 2 of the class bullies. Then SWAT stormed the door, telling him to drop the weapon. Then he tried to shoot them. They shot him in the head. On October 2, 2006, milk tank driver Charles Carl Roberts opened fire on a small Amish schoolhouse in Bart Township. Prior to going to school, Roberts left a suicide note at home for his wife and children. Roberts entered the one-room schoolhouse and ordered all the boys to leave, as well as 1 pregnant woman and 3 parents with infants. He ordered the remaining 10 girls against the wall and held them hostage. Sisters Mariah and Barbara Fisher, aged 13 and 11, courageously asked to be shot first in exchange for the lives of the other young girls. Some were as young as 6 years old. Roberts killed Mariah and wounded Barbara. In addition, he shot 8 of the 10 girls, killing 5 of them. Custodian Edward Charles Alway was reported as going postal on July 12, 1976 at California State University in Fullerton, California. The 37-year-old employee of the institute had a history of violence and mental illness and was later diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. He was found insane by the judge at his trial for the murders. He called the police after killing 7 people and wounding 2 others, turned himself in. His motives behind the mass murder included him believing the university library was screening pornographic movies his wife was forced to appear in. He is currently receiving medical treatment for his condition at the Patton State Hospital. High school seniors Eric Harris, 18, and Dylan Klebold, 17, may have not committed the deadliest school shooting in the U.S., but their killing spree at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado, is considered one of the most infamous attacks in history. It sparked numerous debates, including gun control, antidepressant drugs, and the influence of social cliques, violent video games, and bullying have on the mental health of high school students. Harris and Klebold spent countless hours preparing for the events on April 20th, 1999, which were documented in their basement tapes. The tapes contain footage of the 2 boys having target practice with illegally obtained firearms, as well as a suicide message and apology to their parents. Their ultimate goal was to be responsible for more victims than the Oklahoma City bombing, an event the boys idolized. The morning of the shootings, Harris and Klebold encountered one of their few friends, Brooks Brown, in the school parking lot. Brown was one of the few students the shooters considered a friend. They told him to leave campus immediately because something bad was about to happen. Reports claim the boys targeted jocks, taunted people for their belief in Christianity, and made jokes with each other while they killed their peers. Harris and Klebold took the lives of 13 people and injured 24. They both committed suicide like 2 cowards in the library together. Virginia Polytech Institute and State University in Blacksburg, Virginia, came under attack on April 16, 2007. Senior student Seung-Hoo Choi killed 32 people and injured 17 more in 2 attacks, one in a co-ed dormitory, the other in the Engineering, Science, and Mechanics building. He is noted as committing the deadliest attack on a school in the U.S. history. Cho was previously diagnosed with severe anxiety disorder. Among the tapes he personally made to NBC News, Cho expressed his hatred for the wealthy, compared himself to Jesus Christ, and explained that he was forced to commit the mass shooting due to the voices in his head. Virginia Tech has held the #1 spot as deadliest school shooting for years. Holocaust survivor Levu Labrosse was a professor in the Engineering, Science, and Mechanics department at the school, who was famously remembered for using his body as a barricade against the door during the attack. He was killed during the attack, but managed to hold the door closed long enough for all of his students to escape. Cho ultimately committed suicide following the shooting. What a surprise. On to the next one. It was 2:30 when David Hogue heard the first shot. The 17-year-old was in environmental science class at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. The teacher had passed out worksheets. When he heard the first bang, his classmates turned to each other. That sounded like a gun, they said. The teacher closed the door. Within seconds, the fire alarm went off. We instinctively walked outside, said David. We all thought it was a drill. As David's class walked towards the evacuation zone, they saw a tsunami of people running towards them. They turned and followed the crowd down the corridor. What they didn't realize was they were heading straight towards the shooter. A very heroic janitor stopped us, said David. He said, "Don't go that way. The shooter's over there." After they turned around, Ashley Kurth, the teacher in charge of the culinary program, known in school as Chef Kurth, funneled the crowd into her own classroom. Within 30 seconds, she easily had 30 or 40 people in there, says David. The lights were switched off. One girl had a panic attack and was given water, but Davis said most people were relatively calm. Then news of the shooting filtered through on their phones. David's younger sister is also a student at Stoneman Douglas. I knew he was alive, at least in the beginning, he says. I had a text from her and a call. She was frantic. I was petrified, but I knew she was on the other side of the school, far away from the shooter. David called his dad, a former FBI agent, who told him to stay calm. Other pupils called their parents, saying they loved them, but, says David, there wasn't much crying. There was a group energy that kept us strong. There was a melancholy calm. Davis is a student journalist, so started interviewing people, using his phone to record them. Figured if I died, at least this, the recording would be passed on to other people, so these voices would echo on. David tried to stay calm and help others. The classroom had 2 doors. If the shooter entered one, he thought they could escape through the other, but he knew that might not be good enough. I realized I may not survive, he says. It was going through everybody's mind at some point. We were all terrified. After around an hour, 5 members of a police SWAT team burst into the classroom. They told people to get down and put their hands up. At this time, they had eradicated the suspect, says David. We didn't know that, but they didn't have him. We were quite frankly running for our lives. When he reached safety, Davis said, shock, pure shell shock. He found his dad and his sister. One of her friends was killed. In the early hours of Thursday, David was still outside the school where 17 people had died hours earlier. I feel a mix of anger, sadness, but mostly passion, he says. I don't want this to ever happen to anyone else. The fact is there are 17 families that now have empty rooms. These are people's kids. They poured all the love, everything they could ever give into these kids, and it's all been taken by one piece of metal and bled out on the floor. It can be tough figuring out whether a student might be contemplating harm or if they're simply being irritable, angry, or withdrawn. The key is to look out for drastic changes in behavior, said school safety consultant Melissa Reeves, past president of the National Association of School Psychologists. Those drastic changes can show up in different ways. For some, it's increased outward behavior, so we'll see an escalation in grievances, an escalation potentially in anger. We'll see an escalation in difficulty managing their emotions as well. Others might do the opposite and become more isolated. We're still seeing significant changes, but that may now be starting to withdraw. They're no longer interacting with groups of friends. They're starting to spend more time on the internet. Broad statements of hostility, such as, I hate everybody, are another red flag Reeves said. School shooters often link hints about their plans before they carry them out. I've seen it in nearly every case, and leakage is very specific because it is the school shooter talking about what they're going to do before they do it. Thank you guys for watching and listening to the very end. If you would like a story of your own to be featured on an upcoming video, please email it to my email in the description box below. Please be sure to leave a like on this video as well, as it will help perform at a much higher rate. Until I meet you all again, stay safe, stay scared.